But what I want you to focus on, if everyone listening out there, is the opportunity. It's not all doom and gloom if you're prepared. It's opportunity time. Anyone can get rich when it's great. And there's a big difference between rich and wealthy. Prepare yourself now to get wealthy with the opportunities that are going to come your way.
From Sarah Systems and Billy Go, this is No BS with Billy Stevens and Landon Brewer, the unfiltered, straight-shooting podcast that dives deep into the heart of home service trades to uncover the truth about running your business. You're entering the No BS zone with Billy and Landon.
Welcome, everybody, to the No BS podcast. We are here today with Landon Brewer, my partner in crime. We're gonna break down some of the current events that are going on in this world. You know, we got a crazy election cycle going on. We got, economic problems. Where's this industry headed? What do you think about it, Mr. Brewer?
Man, if you'd asked me, well, you did ask me this a couple years ago. We made some pretty accurate predictions, but holy cow! I mean, who could have predicted the crazy, wacky stuff that's gone on in the last couple of years, from all of, from the political dynamic to the insane economic stuff, Bidenflation. Like, who could have predicted it? And more importantly, how are you responding to it? And even more important than that, what's going to happen next, and what are you planning to do? Right. So I love this. I love our evolutionary conversations.
So do I. Again, all of our predictions mean nothing. Just want to get that out there first.
These are solely, well, viewer discretion's advised, but these are solely the opinions of the two morons that are doing this podcast.
There you go. But we do have history on our side, and we can talk about, the things we've seen in the past, when certain things happen and how it affects our industry from the past. So we'll use those thought processes to come up with what we think are, accurate predictions. We can go to what's happening right now. What do we think was going to happen after the election, up into the election? We'll just kind of start there. So what a crazy month of July. What a crazy month. We're having super crazy weather where it's typically not that hot. It's extremely hot. Where it's typically really hot, it's cool. All the weather patterns have flipped this year. So it's not so hot in the south anymore, and it's hotter in the north, I guess. I don't know what's going on, but we got that going on. We got the political spectrum that just, oh my gosh, out of whack. I want to stop right there for a second. I don't know about you, Landon, but, when you're running a business and things don't go right, like maybe you get a 1-star review or you get a really mad customer or something like that, it's still, it can affect you because you want to do the best you can, right? We want to be, as good as we can, but how do you bounce back from getting shot in the ear so quickly and not even act like it phases you?
I mean, you got to apparently just got to raise up your hand and, become an even bigger icon. I don't know, but that's like, talk about the ultimate, like, terrible Yelp customer, the little twerp up there. Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
but it's just it goes to the state of our society today. I mean, it's just, chaos out there. And I think it's intentional chaos designed to kind of control the masses and, perpetrate what they're perpetrating on us. But, the world has just gotten crazy. It's more divided, I think, than ever. At least that's what they want you to see in the media and all of that. But, it trickles down to us into our pocketbooks. That's where it affects us most, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know about you, but the cost of did you see the Walmart guy? Did you see that thing that's been on social media? The guy that had a Walmart order from 3 years ago is like all of his supplies for the month. And when you go to, I guess you go to their website or their app, you can just reorder previous order. And he reordered the previous order and went from like $136 to $418 for the same stuff in just, a couple of year period of time. That's what the world, we're facing today.
But inflation's down, as they say. How do you explain that?
They said we never went into a recession, and it was like, well, whatever we went into, it sucked. So don't do any more of that.
Yes, please.
So, but the amazing thing is, I'm willing to bet, and actually, I know for a fact some of the large companies that have come in the space, some of the private equity backed players, have actually done the opposite of what everybody else has done, right? Which, you take a look at Coca-Cola, Pepsi, the cereal, anything that is you go to the grocery store, right? They've elevated their prices not because of elevated costs necessarily, just because they've elevated their prices because of inflation, and they've elevated it anywhere from 20 to 70% in most cases. How many of us have responded the same way, right? How many of us in the last 2 years have elevated our prices at least 50%?
I
When
mean,
every other industry in the world's doing it. Most of these private equity backed people, when they saw a retraction because of bad management, lack of leads, etc., they did what might be obvious in corporate America and cut prices to try and make more volume. It never works, and they've suffered because of it.
I mean, you have to raise your prices because everything's doubled. It costs twice as much on the wholesale level to buy equipment than it did, 3 years ago, before we entered the great COVID era, if you will. And you have to respond to it. So, I know that if we were going to charge what we should be charging for air conditioners, a system would be probably in the $40,000 to $50,000 range, to be honest with you, to get the margins that real companies get, corporate America, all that stuff. But we can't do that. It's impossible. And how do we do it? We got to make it up in efficiency. Our businesses are so complicated and there's so much chaos that there's a lot of room for improvement. And when you get that improvement, then you can sell your product at a reasonable amount because now you've taken care of all the stuff that costs you money in operating, and you're dealing with operating costs. And we had a great meeting about that this morning in our board meeting we had earlier today. And what we were discussing was, if you get in there, dive in, know the numbers, and then get efficient in how you go to market, and all these things will make a difference. Because you can't continue to raise prices to the point where you can't sell anymore. And of course, your competitors aren't doing it. If customers are getting more and more price conscious because of this, political world that we're in right now, we have an election coming up in just 4 months from now. Not even that, probably just a little over 3 months. And, people put the brakes on because they don't know what's going to happen. It's just a natural effect. It happens every 4 years. This is exactly what happens. And, from what we're seeing is, customers are, getting more denials because the banks are pulling back. It was free flow money for a long time. And now when the banks start pulling back, you need to pay attention. When you're not getting the approvals that you should be getting, you need to pay attention because it's going to make an effect on your business at some point. And I know a lot of companies are doing really well this summer in certain parts of the country, and don't get too cocky, I guess, is about that. You need to conserve your money now because it's going to be a rough early 2025, no matter who gets elected. I mean, at some point, you got to pay the piper. All this stuff is going to start catching up to us. And the economy has really gone bad a couple of years ago. Our economy is so large in the United States that it takes about 2 years for it to catch up when something drastic changes. And I think we're getting closer and closer to that. We talked about this about 2 years ago.
We did. And so what we talked about is coming true, right? The biggest thing that I remember discussing was the availability of credit. And that's been a catastrophe for a lot of people. But, now I think in this tail that we're facing, I think, wages haven't really risen correspondingly, but they will have to rise at some point because people just can't afford to live, and then the economic system can't function. So wages will have to rise. They've risen in different parts of California for fast food, et cetera. But when that happens, that means it's going to put wage pressure on our labor as well, right? So which means that we're going to have to respond because we're labor brokers. We're going to respond significantly in higher price points and, looking at efficiency closer. So that's going to happen, and we got to be prepared for that. And we got, I would be planning on $50 an hour, kind of starting wages and how you're going to prepare for that in 6 months. If it doesn't happen in 6 months, great, but at least you're prepared if it happens, because it can happen.
You better be on top of that. I'm telling you, because when you can flip burgers for $20 an hour in the AC,
Yeah.
you can't pay $20 an hour anymore for someone to be in an attic. You just can't do it. It's not going to work, and you're going to find yourself in even worse dire straits when it comes to having enough employees. I really see a lot of crazy stuff coming down, for our industry. I think it's going to ease in. I don't think it's going to be real abrupt. I think it's been easing in now for quite some time. Just be aware, start looking at the shiny objects and the ones that aren't giving you a return on investment, the ones that, you've forgotten all about. Look at your credit card statements and stuff and go through there and start canceling this stuff that doesn't matter. Get rid of those, those types of costs. Spend money on training, and maybe, train your people up better, and maybe cut staff because you got better training. You don't need as many people. All these things are going to matter soon.
Dial in your process, right? If this is the most critical time ever, and it's always been a critical thing. It's always been kind of the backbone to know, predictor of company success. If you don't know your numbers, if you don't know what your margin profile is today, if you don't know, how you're priced and why you're priced that way, if you don't know what your gross blended average is, if you don't know that every time you run a call, you should expect X as a result, and then if you don't know, the stack ranking of your employees, if you don't know what your labor is as a percentage of your revenue, if you don't know your metrics like the back of your hand, there's no doubt in my mind you will meet a great awakening and a reckoning very shortly. I mean, you can't get away with, this whole, guru thing of the sales hide sins and just send me, let me train your people and go out and make the sales army. And we're just going to create this big growing company that just has never worked ever. And it's more important now than ever to know those things.
That's exactly right. In fact, we had the perfect scenario today in that we call it the board meeting. It's when we get a bunch of companies together and then we talk about things. And today we talked about this one company. We had them pull their financials up and they made $111,000 in the month of June, which is a fantastic month. But then once we started digging in, there was a big commercial job, and there's a good chance that was put on accounts receivables, AR. Okay. So I believe that number was around 80,000, if I remember right. You correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it was 80,000 put on AR. So right then and there's only $31,000 that actually came into the company. You see 111,000 profit, but there's 31,000 that actually came into the company. Big difference. And not only that, the debt service and everything was probably around 30,000 is what we figured based off the business. And now we got $1,000. And it goes back to saying you may be showing a profit, but you don't understand why the money isn't there. And this is what you need to start paying attention to and get out of the accounts receivables business if you can. Every company has a credit card on file because they need credit cards for emergencies. And don't allow them to slow pay you because they're going to be slow in paying you as well because, economic conditions. And don't get hung out to dry on a big amount of money. And demand credit card payment before you accept the commercial call. And obviously, if you're in residential, you should never have an AR at all. Yeah. It should always be zero. You may get we don't even take checks, so we don't even have bad checks or anything like that. So
maybe the finance company's got a day or two in transit, but that's
it.
Yep.
And 24 hours with a credit card or at worst 48. And so keep this a cash business as much as possible. And remember, you're in a cash business. So if you're in dire straits, go talk to your suppliers before it's too late. It's very important that you have a conversation with them. Go, look, I'm seeing a little trouble in the future. I'm a little worried about it. I just want to let you know that, right now we're fine. But I just want to let you know that I'm keeping an eye on it, and I will be in touch if anything changes. Because if you just do that with your suppliers, they will bend over backwards to help you succeed and help you get your cash flow right. And so just a small little tip about things like that. If
Well,
you're
you're
doing,
demonstrating that something that nobody else is demonstrating, that you actually have a plan.
yeah,
I mean, these guys are used to running with you know self-employed people, not business owners.
yeah,
And like I was telling you before the show, like there's a difference between people that are self-employed and people that are business owners. Most people that I'll go so far as to say probably 90% of our industry are people that are self-employed, right? They went out on their own. They decided that they can make more money, they can do it better. They don't have to have a boss. Whatever reason, they decided I've got the skill set. I can go out and do this, and they took a risk and they did it. And kudos for them, right? But what happens in most of those cases, because they don't have the requisite management business skills experiences, is they get out there and they're just trying to undercut and they're trying to hire whoever, and they aren't paying attention. They don't understand the metrics. They just don't get the numbers part of the business, which is the only thing that's important in a business. And now they're like, oh shit, I don't know if I can make payroll. Like I'm gonna have to take out a mortgage to do this. And I was like, when you're in that spot, you can get out of that spot. But most of them don't know how to get out of the spot or why they got in the spot in the first place, and it's a struggle. And most of those companies go out of business because of what you were mentioning, not because they can't figure out how to make a profit, because they don't understand how to manage cash flow,
yeah.
right?
Comes back to
And
cash
that's
flow.
that's the difference between owning a business and being self-employed is if you own a business, you are an investor in the business, you have a sellable asset that you can monetize at some point. Nobody's going to want to buy the business that you're running around with your hair on fire and always frustrated and can't worried about making payroll. That's not a sellable business. That's a liability that
That's right.
you got to fix or get out of.
The thing about it is, if you're aware of this and you're doing something about it proactively, then the opportunities that start coming your way are going to change everything for you. Because there's a lot of companies that aren't paying attention. They're going to get caught with their pants down, if you will, and it's going to create opportunity to pick up customers really cheap, especially on the smaller size companies, because they literally can need their debt paid off or something like that, something small for what the value could possibly be. I'm seeing a lot of that, and I think if you get your house in order, that's why you need to be watching the No BS podcast or listening to us, because we're going to give you the tools to survive these crazy times that we're going in. And I don't know how long this is going to last. It may be another couple of years before we, really get out of this, or it may be over with by next summer. Who knows? We don't know that, but we do know it is different, and we do know it is changing by the day. And getting harder to get approvals, getting harder to get people to say yes. We're doing more repairs. And all those things are fine if your margins are right and you know what your budget is for the day. You know what your budgets are, your break evens. You know all these numbers. It comes back to what Landon was saying a few minutes ago. Your financial statements, you need to learn them. You need to learn how to read them, and then you need to learn how to manage the KPIs that affect the P&L. And you'll be fine. And so that's why we're on here, because we just saw that this was something that people have been begging us to do. They just really are reaching out to us about getting this type of help. And so we're like, why don't we just do it, free? Here it is. Let's just give it out there and get it out there and let these people take it and run with it.
That's the evolutionary journey, right? Of that self-employed person that's just battling it out and trying to figure it out along the way. They'll go to the internet, they'll look up information, they'll try and they'll join organizations. They'll unfortunately, a lot of these young guys, they'll look at some of these other young guy gurus that are misleading everybody as to how successful and intelligent, et cetera, they are, and then they'll damage those people and end off even worse than they were before they got there. And I hear from those people daily now, thanks to freaking social media. But so there probably is a requirement, to have some level of perception, like perceptibility, the ability to see through just the obvious BS that you see all over social media. Because when you hear some of this stuff about you see the guys getting in their rent a jet and their Rolls Royces and all the stuff, and it's great. When that's great, if they ain't selling you anything, if they're just happy to show off what they have, right?
Mm-hmm.
As soon as they start selling you anything and they got that stuff, just run for the hills. Run for the hills.
It's going in their pocket, not in helping you get better. So,
So, this is funny. You mentioned, hopefully this thing can come off the wall, but I don't know if you noticed I've got a new poster behind me on the wall.
he's got the Duke behind him for those of you that are listening today. What we have there, Life is Tough, but it's tougher if you're stupid, by John Wayne.
That's my favorite quote. Favorite quote.
Awesome. Way to go.
Go get yourself educated.
There you go. So what do you think's going to happen? Let's just say, I know we can't predict who's going to get elected, but if the new VP gets elected, it's going to be the same old. You're going to have high interest rates, high.
They're just going to rain down more terror on us all. We got to be prepared for that.
Yeah.
Right.
If Donald gets in there, he's got to have a lot of work to do to unwind a lot of this. So anything's going to change anytime soon if that's what he gets in there and does. If he survives the whole 4 years. So I think that, either way you look at it, the next 18 months are going to be, sketchy. I'm not going to say they're going to be bad. I'm not going to say they're going to be good, or I think just sketchy. It's going to be all over the place.
I'll tell you what we really crave. This notion of consumer confidence, right? I think we really crave just people to feel at ease and like they've got, they're not, this is what kind of election years do. And I just kind of noticed it in my career as well, that like in election years, around election time, people just kind of like tighten up and they're kind of like, there's this fear, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't even remember. There's Roosevelt, I'm sure. There's nothing to fear but fear itself. But like politicians instill fear in you, right? So they instill fear in the public, and the public's like, I don't know if I want to spend money. Maybe we should be saving. Maybe we should be storing food. Maybe we should be, conserving water. It's like, okay, well, maybe nothing's going to happen, right? Because they want you to feel that way, and they're trying to drive your votes or whatever. But at the end of the day, we just want people to feel confident that they got a great asset in their house that they need to take care of. And if they're hot, they're cold, something's wrong, they should be calling us and letting us take care of the house and not be financially constrained. If we can just get that level of confidence back, I think demand will shoot through the roof.
Absolutely. We'll be in another gold rush.
Yeah.
Once we get through these, bumpy waters, if you will, rough seas.
Well, so here's the bright side. In all of this, thus far, in most places, housing prices have not declined. So, your core customer base has an asset that's more valuable than previously, and most of them still have pretty reasonably low mortgages. So that's the one kind of the bright side. Now, the people that don't own houses that are not necessarily our customers, it's rougher for them. But from the standpoint of our customer base, that's still looking good.
Yeah, you're right about that. There's still equity that they can use, tap into.
Yeah, they want to preserve and protect that asset, right?
That's right. Yeah. I believe if they lower the rates too quickly, it could unravel a little bit. For sure. But we'll just see what happens. That's just the thing about it is. But what I want you to focus on, if everyone listening out there, is the opportunity. It's not all doom and gloom if you're prepared. It's opportunity time. And that's really where it's at. So, anyone can get rich when it's great, right? That's the birth of the gurus, right? But when it's bad is when you get wealthy. And there's a big difference between rich and wealthy. And prepare yourself now to get wealthy with the opportunities that are going to come your way. You're going to be able to buy businesses in your local service area for way less than it takes to acquire a customer on Google. This is happening already. I've done several of those, and and plan on doing many, many more. And it's because they're not prepared, and things are starting to slow down, and it's affecting them immediately. And so we definitely want you to everybody to understand that their opportunities are better now than when it's when they're humming, when your business is growing and everybody's busy. That is great. There's no doubt about it. But the money that you put away, if you can put that money to work into building even bigger and better businesses, it's exponential. I mean, just like Einstein, you got a quote from John Wayne. I'll use my Einstein quote. The greatest invention of mankind was compound interest.
Yep.
And this is that opportunity. For
Well,
sure.
I mean, look at I don't even know if we could say this online, but the CVID era, right? Like, look what happened there. They say that it was like 1.7 American middle class, and below lost like $1.7 trillion in wealth. And that $1.7 trillion in wealth went to the billionaire class, right? They created more billionaires per day during that pandemic, right? So there's opportunity on both sides. You want to make sure that you're making the right choices.
That's right. And how do you do that? Well, you prepare. You put back cash. Get your lines of credit while your business is humming. Get lines of credit. You don't have to use them. Just get them. Get as much as you can get and get it set on the side and ready for opportunity if you need it. Or maybe you have a bad spell, you have it. But go and get it now while your business is busy. Don't wait until you need a line of credit. You have to be proactive on getting a line of credit. Get it while your business is doing well. Your balance sheet's looking good. Sock away as much cash as possible. Quit buying the shiny objects for a little bit and just kind of sit tight and then wait for this to come to you. Yeah. And when it does, you're going to be able to take advantage of a lot of cool stuff.
Yep. Yeah, I would absolutely echo that. I think you see these articles about Warren Buffett and these, Berkshire Hathaway, they're just kind of stacking cash, and you see a lot of cash just like sitting there waiting. I was talking to a private equity and a private credit guy this morning, and it was really interesting. I said, so, should I be taking a whole bunch of cash right now to try and set up, just wait for the fall of some of these mid-market private equity firms that are just getting their butts kicked, and I can get a whole pile of cash and just wait. And they're like, yeah, it's a good idea. That's where we're all sitting, because we're like the sharks, they're just swimming around, and but none of them, they're also like, oh, they're 12 times leverage. They're really in a bad spot, but they're not failing yet. They're not giving up yet. They think it's going to turn around. It's like, well, what's your plan to turn it around?
Yeah.
It's like, let's actually go back and like rehire the operators. That's not part of the plan. I don't know what your plan is.
Yeah, that's a whole nother deal. What about these operators?
Sitting on the sidelines right now.
Yeah, wait till they come back.
Yep.
It's going to be interesting. What's going to happen?
I'm telling you, this is going to be the second phase of the gold rush.
Yeah.
First, like now is the time. Who got richest in the gold rush? I'm sure you've heard this analogy, right? The people that sold the axes, the picks, and the supplies to the gold miners. Those are the people that got the wealthiest, right? I feel like we're sitting there right now, and we're going to have another fresh crop of gold miners, coming in to stake their claim pretty soon.
Absolutely. It's going to be interesting. I love it when it gets like this. It's when I get happy.
Yeah.
It's when we do really well, for sure. I mean, the housing crash back in 2008, 2009, it was a wonderful time for me because I was prepared. I didn't know it was coming. I didn't know that was coming, but I was preparing if it ever did. And that goes back to, growing up in a household where your dad's trying to figure out his own business, as a plumber. And, he ebbed and flowed with the economy. It was good, he did fine. It was bad, he did bad. It is what it is. And I used to joke that I didn't know you could move during the day until I got out on my own. I thought you had to only move at night. I thought you could only move at night. So...
Well, luckily, assuming we continue to make the right moves, our kids will never have to worry about that, right? Which is the great thing, right? This is
Yeah.
the great part that I love about our industry. It's if you know how to do, especially all the interest and money that's come into, if you really know what you're doing, you really understand the business, the
Hmm.
metrics, and can put together a solid, foundational business, you can just do very well, right? But
Yeah.
it takes a while to learn the skills and to get the requisite skills to be able to do that and put it together and build the infrastructure. But if you can learn that, which is what this podcast is all about, you can just, change the life of you, your family, and generations.
Absolutely. It it's yeah. I got into this when I fell into the business that I ended up acquiring with no money in my pocket and no credit to speak of. Just help from my father-in-law and a banker that said this business is actually okay, and if you don't mess it up, I'll give you the money to buy it. Because the business was doing okay, and he's like, just don't mess it up, and you'll be fine. And so I listened to him. Fortunately, it worked out. But it was a lot of long days, right? Trying to figure everything out. And
How old were you when you got into the business with your dad's business?
I was 10 when I started working, because back then you went to work. I mean, I was 10 years old, and I would work with him all through the summer and the weekends if he ever needed it.
Well, you don't. This is going to be a surprise to you, but I've now invited my 10-year-old to, you know, get to work as well. So I'm going to make her be part of a show. I told her she could do the line that you
Well,
always
there
have
she
me
is. Hey
have me
there.
do. So say hi.
Hello.
So okay, what are you supposed to say in YouTube channels? What are you supposed to say?
Like and subscribe.
Yeah, remember to like and subscribe. Look,
Awesome.
she earned her $12,000 a year salary from that. Good job.
Thanks for the help. We need everything we can get to get a ratings boost here.
That's right. Next, we're gonna have to bring dogs on the show and everything.
Yep. Pet tricks, stupid pet tricks. You name it, whatever it takes. That's awesome. Well, it's a good thing that she looks like your wife. That's all I had to
It's a very
say.
good thing.
Yeah, and then acts like her too. So everything's
I
good.
mean, I couldn't imagine, these high cheekbones and nice jawline on a woman. It'd be way too handsome of a woman.
All right. For those of you listening, you're lucky. For those of you watching, I'm sorry. Oh yeah.
Oh man.
But yeah, I
But
mean, we're giddy. Look at here. The things are going crazy and we're all giddy. What's up with that? Why are we having such a good time when we know there's a little bit of doom and gloom on the horizon?
I mean, to me, it's exciting.
It's exciting.
To me, like the political thing is exciting. I obviously get into that. I make whatever posts that I make, but you know, it's really entertaining once you kind of dive into something and try and figure it out. It's like, okay, well, they're not going to beat him with this person, so that person's going to drop out. It's really a strategic thing. And business is the exact same way, right? So okay, this guy's going to get in. We got these regulations coming down the pipeline. We got this equipment shortage coming over here. So how are we going to augment that over here? Do we need to change our sales model into more of a airflow model because people aren't buying equipment? Do we you just have to constantly make these tweaks and stay on top of it. You can only do that again. I sound like a broken record. If you know your numbers, if you understand what your lead costs are, if you understand what you're going to generate every time you're on a call, if you understand all of these things, then you can make strategic moves. This business is really a game of chess, right?
Yep.
And if you become, if you just become a student of the business, and again, this is not, to downplay the importance of all the technical work, because that's the lifeblood of it. But if you become the student of the business, you have almost no choice but to be successful.
I 100% agree with you. It is a game of chess, and once you learn it, you can take it and turn it into a game of checkers.
Yep.
And that's where you want to get to. You want to take the chess, master it, and then turn it into a game of checkers. And
That's it.
That's really all you have to do. And, with all the things that are available to us at our fingertips, there's no reason why you can't get that, that financial education that you need to get. Not a gloss over like we get from, gurus and from best practices, not a gloss over on financials, a deep dive into what everything means and how to fix it. And that's going to be hard to do because not many people dive deep into the financials or know how to.
Yeah.
And so you got to find a group that actually starts there. I mean, what is the purpose of having different ideas, whether it's software, whether it's the latest gadget or it's anything that you can think of, none of that matters if you don't know the financial basics. That none of those things are going to change the business.
Well, it starts there. If you know the financial basics, if you understand the business and you can say, hey, we've got a problem with X, Y, and Z, what can we create that will resolve that problem with X, Y, and Z and yield us a better result? That's how you should think about innovating in a business. But instead, most people are like, oh, shiny new object. Oh, look at AI. Let's throw out AI to be on the cutting edge of technology. Or, hey, let's go train and let's go do it's. No, you don't need that. And people keep marketing to you that you need this. You need to send your person to this $50,000 training. It's going to solve all your issues. Don't do it.
Nope.
it will be the answer to your business, but there's a process of questioning that has to go into it way before you ever just make that decision.
And if you can't make a decision or the decisions you made in the past created more problems, think through the scenario more. Take your time, slow down, and just look at the overall picture. Don't zero in on one little thing and not look at it from 60,000 foot view. Look at it from a 60,000 foot view and find the issues you're going to create when you make this change.
Yeah.
Or think through those and that'll save yourself a lot of problems, like with your pay systems and stuff. It just, they've become so complicated.
And don't toil on the mistakes that you made too. I've heard that a lot lately.
Yeah.
When I just did this to myself. We did this, and I made this happen, and this happened to me. And don't mistakes and doing that is all a part of the learning process, becoming a master of the business, right? If you don't make those mistakes, you don't hire the wrong person, you don't put the wrong pay structure in place. If you don't not hold somebody accountable, like. If you don't make those mistakes, you can't advance the next level. But the problem is the difference between successful people and less successful people are the less successful people will just toil on those mistakes. The other one's like, well, shit, that's dumb. Won't do that again. Let's move on.
Yep.
And
let's go.
That's what you have to do.
Mm-hmm.
Just take massive action. Just keep taking massive action.
That's exactly right. That's a good analogy. Just keep moving forward. Don't let anything get in your way. Don't let your thoughts get in your way.
Yeah.
Just keep moving forward.
That's personally affected me a lot because I'm very like, okay, I got to think all of the negative. And sometimes I wish I could just wake up and just not have the thoughts, not have all of the what's going to happen if, all the potential negative consequences. I'm going to get kicked in the head by a mule, wake up and be like, oh, I'm going to be successful no matter what I do. I'm just going to do stuff. Like, I wish I had more of that gene, because I think that's like one of the key entrepreneurial genes. And I'm like, just maybe it doesn't make sense to do that. Like, here's the downward consequences. I wish it was just overthinking is also a detriment. So don't overthink.
That's right. I agree with that. And that's a hard one to overcome. In fact, I've get professional training for that one.
Yeah,
I really do. I'm not kidding. I pay someone to help me clear my mind. I sit with this person, once a week, and they're like, all right, tell me, help me refocus to not focus.
Yeah.
Because that real estate.
Are you laying on a couch when this conversation's happening?
No, not at all. It's just learning how to put all that stuff aside.
Yeah.
That's all. And I highly recommend it. So I'll send you her number. But I do that. I really do. Because, man, when you're running, 5-6 different businesses, and I'm not just talking about locations. I consider that one business when it comes to plumbing HVAC. I'm talking about different types of industries that I run. There's a lot going on upstairs in my head, and a lot of things I've got to think through, figure out, and do all this stuff. And it's, the second we wake up as entrepreneurs, we've got a situation in our head. The second we wake up, we woke up because the situation parked itself there, and it goes, time to get up. I'm sitting here waiting for you to worry about it. And so, I mean, that's the entrepreneur, but that's what that's what I thrive on. It's the creative process, the solving problems.
But here's what I don't know if you've experienced this, but as I've kind of like progressed throughout my career, everything was way more important early on. And now it's just like, now when you hear chaotic things, you're like, oh, that's a new one. I'm going to write that one down and remember that one.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this happened. Like, oh, the world blew up. It's like, oh, well, it's Tuesday. Like, it just, you just kind of like walk in expecting like, whatever to happen, it doesn't phase you as much as it did when you're right. At least that's my experience.
Yes, I agree with you on that one. At some point, you become numb. And, right.
Like, oh, okay, great.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Tuesday.
We just lost. I remember. I think I told you the story. Somebody came into an office. We lost 30 installers because we had one of the gurus kind of like trying to start trouble for our business, and he was trying to recruit all of our guys and do it in the middle of summer, right? And so the partner comes in and he's like, "Hey, we're losing all these guys. I need you to come out and help me fix this issue." Like, okay. And so I'm just like doing my morning report, and he runs back. He's like, "What are you doing? Like, can you come?" Like, "I'm finishing up my email." He's like, "Well, hurry up, And so he's like, "And bring the checkbook, just whatever. We got to pay these guys to stay." And so I walked out and, I didn't speak Spanish. So I had brought a Spanish speaker with me. And I said, "Hey, do me a favor." I said, "Repeat what I'm saying in Spanish." I said, "Hello, everybody. We have a lot of work today, a lot of customers to take care of, a lot of money to be made. We appreciate your work and happy to help you feed your families. I understand some of you aren't happy with something. We can address that. But right now, you're either going to work or you got 5 minutes you're out and you're not and you're headed towards your calls. I'm calling the cops and we're escorting you out." And I walked away. And then everybody went to work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then finally you started getting the ringleaders of causing it, and they're like, "Okay, well, these are the people that caused this thing, and this is why they're doing it." And who's person? So we just said, "Go work for that guy. Get out of here." But
yeah,
I'll never forget. In the middle of summer, like 30 installers were staging a coup in the parking lot at like 7 a.m.
Yeah, you handled it. What else you gonna do? You can't beg. Just let it happen.
Well, it's Tuesday.
Tell them your point, and then go back in. There you go. Well, good for you. Great show. This is stuff I feel like everybody needs to be hearing. Don't get too confident from this summer. If you're having a great summer, just beware. It's around the corner. Things are changing, and they're changing quickly. We just want you to be aware of it. And maybe we're wrong. If we are, fine. And if we're not, then be ready, and then you'll be really fine. Yep. I'm telling you. Bad is good.
I mean, that's the best thing that with the technology that we have, with Sarah and some of the, all these tools that we have that you didn't have years ago. If the worst happens tomorrow and you got to, raise your rate from $500 to $1,200 an hour, can do with a couple of clicks of a button, and you're just in business.
There
right?
You go, off and running.
Yeah.
But I want to thank everyone for listening today. And Senor Landon, what do you have to say? Wrap up the show.
I can't do it as good as my daughter did it, but just make sure that if you want to keep seeing both Billy and I, if it was just Billy, it would be all BS. I thought about that earlier today. It really would just be all BS. No.
You put the weight behind it with the LB.
I put the LBs in there. If you want to, if you like what you hear, if you want to hear more, leave a comment. Make sure you subscribe. We got to get our subscribers up. We're getting apparently we're getting to a pivotal point with YouTube. I don't know these things, but this is what the producer says, that if we get, a few more, then the algorithm shifts and it's just like a windfall. And, now we're prime time, baby.
Prime time.
I want to see Billy's face right up there next to Joe Rogan.
There you go. My buddy Joe. All right. Well,
Good
thanks everybody
podcast.
for listening. We'll see you next time.
See you guys.
No BS with Billy and Landon is produced and delivered to you by Sarah Systems. At Sarah Systems, we've created a better way to run your home service business and unlock unprecedented growth. Our field service software was designed by real home service professionals to help you save steps, charge for previously unbillable time, and win more business. But the true change requires more than software. Our live coaching helps you understand and control the aspects of your business that matter most. It's about time for a new era of service, and we're leading the way. If you're ready to join the hundreds of other contractors who've been able to increase profit margins more than 50% within 6 months, visit Sarah.tech today. That's Sarah, SERA.tech today.